Apple's being sued for, well, anti-competitive antitrust behavior by the federal government. Also, apparently 3 other lawsuits have been filed since the March 20th filing by the Department of Justice. So the government themselves, along, I think it was co-signed by like 16 different states or something like that, 13 maybe, that Apple is engaging in anti-competitive behavior, violation of antitrust. This is the Sherman Act. Apparently it's been around since like 1890, and they're suing under Article 2 of this says Sherman Act. So let me read it for you real quick, just so we're all up to speed on the same thing. So I cannot memorize all this, but it's not that long. So Article or Section 2, that every person who shall monopolize or attempt to monopolize or combine or conspire with any other person or persons to monopolize any part of a trade or commerce, I lost my place, among the several states or with the foreign nations shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor, and on conviction thereof shall be punished by fine not exceeding $5,000 or by imprisonment not exceeding 1 year, or by both said punishments in the discretion of the court. So what's going on here is this lawsuit was filed alleging that Apple, apparently this is after a 5-year investigation by the Department of Justice. So it's not like one day they woke up and they said, okay, Apple, we're going to sue you because we believe you're engaging in behavior that's monopolistic and you're trying to stifle competition and all these things. And they cited various different things like being able to artificially increase prices, walling out competitors. And we've seen a lot of the stuff that they've talked about, like, you can't use your Apple wallet if you leave Apple and you go to Android, right? Or vice versa. You can't use your Google wallet, your Samsung wallet, or bring your other payment methods to Apple. Or other things like if you buy a smartwatch from another brand, it either doesn't work with Apple or it doesn't work as well. I mean, Apple's been sued before by engaging in behavior like this with apparently ebook pricing years ago, and they had to pay a $450 million settlement on that because they were, artificially and controlling, inflating the prices of ebooks. So this time around, it seems like it's more of a ecosystem-wide kind of thing. And there's been a lot of reactions to this stuff. I've been reading things. I've been kind of digesting this over the last couple of days because I didn't want to come in here and be like, Apple's being sued. Have a nice day. Just to get clicks. I want to have some discussion on this because, I think that there's merit to certain parts of this, but I don't, not here to assess any right or wrong. That's not my job. That's the job of the court system. However they work that out, where differing minds can differ on certain things. You got to have a solution. People believe they're being ripped off. The Department of Justice believes people are being ripped off, or the market is suffering and consumers are suffering. Ultimately, that's the point. Consumers are suffering. We're paying higher prices. They say that because of their veiled off approach and the way that they deal with their ecosphere in the App Store, they can charge higher prices for certain apps. They keep certain apps out. There are apps that are only available in the App Store on Apple that if you leave, you can't use it on your Android phone. There's limitations on streaming services. I mean, if you've ever tried using Apple TV on an Android phone, you might know what I'm talking about because you can't do it. So I believe that there are some areas where, when it comes to Apple, there are certain benefits you're going to get from being on the platform. Now, iMessage, I believe that people should be able to more freely communicate with iMessage. Do I believe you need to have iMessage on an Android phone? No, but we've been seeing this for years with the whole green bubble, blue bubble, all that crap. And most people don't care, but some people do. And the thing is, though, the bottom line, if you text somebody using an Android phone to an iPhone, if you try and send a picture message, if you try and send a video message, if you try and send a group chat or certain things like that, you're going to have an inferior level or even not able to communicate. I mean, I have issues with iMessage all the time. I tried to send a picture from a Samsung phone to my iPhone the other day, and it didn't even show up. I had to upload the sucker to Google Drive and then download it on my phone just so I could post it on Facebook for my son's birthday. So there are a lot of different instances where you look at these things and you take a look at it and you say, all right, so Apple has a right to create their own products. They have a right to create their own ecosphere. They have a right to engage with software developers. They have all these rights, and every company does. I mean, I don't go into making a business decision thinking, okay, do I have to think of the better good for every other company in doing this? No, and neither should Apple. Apple should be able to make their iPhones, their MacBooks, their iPads, their Apple Watches, and all those things, and really only think about themselves and their consumers, the people who want to buy them. And we wouldn't be having this argument if Apple weren't so wildly successful. I mean, they basically revolutionized the smartphone game. They were the first ones in town with a real smartphone. I know that BlackBerry had their 2G, 3G phones. I didn't really consider those smartphones. Those were Blackberries. Back then, it was just a BlackBerry. It was an email and basic data usage device. It wasn't really I didn't really think it was quite smartphone material. And then we got the iPhone, and then everybody wanted to copy them. And then we got Android and all these other things that, well, quite frankly, failed because of competition. Clearly the market said, we don't want Windows Phone. Clearly the market said, we don't want Blackberries. It coalesced around Android and Apple, and those seem to offer the best experiences. And when you take a look at Apple, for the longest time, the saying is everything just works. And they do a lot of good things with making sure their products work together. But they do a lot of things that keep other products from working with their products as well. I mean, if you've ever used a MacBook and you've got an iPhone, you know how nice it is to use AirDrop. But what if you want to use a Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra and you want to wirelessly transfer files to your MacBook? Good luck with that one. Or if you've ever had, like, okay, let's say you don't like the Apple Watch. What other options are there in the in the watch world for Apple? There aren't really any that even can compete on a similar level because Apple doesn't allow full access to their API and their ecosystem and all that other stuff. Nothing will work as well. So then it's like, well, I guess I'll get the Apple Watch, even though I like the Google Watch, or even though I like the Xiaomi Watch 2, or even though I like the OnePlus Watch 2. They don't work with it. So this is the stuff that they're looking at. But also, when you have this type of behavior, when you know that you've got a leg up on everybody because you refuse to let their products work with you, then you can charge more money. And that is the harm to the consumer. I don't necessarily know that it's so much Apple's practices as it's what is the result of Apple's practices, meaning consumers are stuck with certain limited options. They can't freely transfer things in and out of the platform, and they get charged more money for it. Everybody has talked about the Apple tax forever. Apple charges a ton of money. I mean, shoot, I just talked about this in my Apple Vision Pro video a few days ago. The $3,600 Apple Vision Pro starts at 256 gigabytes of storage. Like, get out of here. That's so stupid. But, I mean, not that that's an instance of their monopoly. They just created the technology, really. They pioneered what they've done off the backbone of what they've seen other people do and what works, and then they've made their Apple version of it, which is fine. They can do that. And I don't think that a lot of people are just saying, okay, $3,700 Apple Vision Pro or Quest 3. I mean, a lot of people are going to buy a cheaper Quest 2 or Quest 3. But the fact that they can charge that much money for 256 gigabytes of storage, or there's other things that are, I mean, I said this whenever the iPhone 15 came out, that Apple's still ripping us off because they're still charging you $800 for an iPhone 15 and they're giving you a 60 hertz screen. I mean, yes, I know I am a penchant for that, and I think it's stupid. I think they should all be 120 hertz. I think just like 5G, it's one of those things where it's been around for so long. Really, there's no excuse why it's not in there, but Apple knows people are going to buy it anyway, so they just keep charging you $800 and then give you inferior products. And if you've ever bought AirPods, you know they don't work as well with other stuff. You lose a lot of the benefits by taking them elsewhere, and it's just kind of a circle. You keep drawing all these circles, and where they meet each other, you can see a lot of these same instances, business practices, how they manage their product portfolio, and what they do to keep developers from programming for their platform, to incentivize people to program for their platform, to incentivize people. I mean, it disincentivizes anyone to try and make anything. We saw what happened with Beeper. Apple shut them down because they found a loophole to try and use iMessage on other devices. So, yeah, I think there is behavior that's going on that does give this whole monopolistic thing some weight, and I think it is very anti-competitive. But Apple also does a lot of things to drive competition. If they hadn't have made the Apple Watch so wildly successful, other companies wouldn't be making watches. If they hadn't made the iPad so good and so wildly successful, nobody would have been pushing tablets like they were. So they did pioneer a lot of this stuff. And when you pioneer something, you're the first out the door. It's just like Tesla now. You know, Tesla, they started this whole, they were the first ones to hammer down this EV thing and get it to a commercial space and get it to where it actually is working. And yeah, most EVs that are bought are Teslas. I mean, that's a byproduct of being the first one across the finish line. You're going to have that benefit. But I mean, I think they also share a lot of their patents and information so people can try and make the same stuff. Because, well, anyway, I'm not getting into a discussion on Elon Musk here. I'm not getting flamed for that. But whenever it comes to Apple, yeah, I mean, they have a certain right, well, not right, but I mean, just obviously they were the first ones there with the best product. They're going to build a tremendous market share. And they have. And that's one of the issues we have here because their market share is so large, it allows them to influence and control consumer purchasing decisions. And then they can take advantage of that and charge more money. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like maybe the Department of Justice is right. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe these other 3 lawsuits are right. I mean, shoot, there was already an what's it called? There's already a lawsuit filed, I think, in February that was given the go ahead for a class action for something to do with consumer pricing anyway, I think related to the App Store. Because, yeah, they do charge a lot of money for apps in their App Store. But anyway, a lot of stuff is circumstantial. A lot of stuff people look at it and they go, oh, yeah, now that somebody's talked about that, that makes sense. But in the grand scheme of things, ultimately it's going to be up to how things go in these court proceedings. Apple, I'm sure, has some really, really expensive attorneys out there. I'm sure that they have a very competent legal team. They've been sued many times. And when you're a big company that's successful like this, you're always going to have people suing you for certain things. So, yeah, I think some of it, especially as an Apple fan, I've seen a lot of angry Apple fans about this. I saw some really angry, some interesting Apple articles. You can go Google them around yourselves. But I like to try and add an air of objectivity to this. Yes, maybe Apple is in the wrong. And people who don't like Apple are going to say, yeah, Apple is in the wrong. But then you have people on the other side of the coin who like Apple, who are like, look, they're not doing anything wrong. They're just successful. If people want to buy their products, then people are going to buy their products. And when you have a free market society where people can freely choose what to buy and how to spend their money, yeah, you look at the purchasing decisions and the market share and the amount of people that buy iPhones every year just keeps going up. And that's one of the things that creates a problem because you end up with this de facto standard in certain areas, especially like iMessage, where they've basically created almost a standard because so many people are using iPhones, so many people are using iMessage that more people than not are in certain instances. And then, well, they have control over that. But anyway, I'm not the Department of Justice. I didn't file this lawsuit. I'm just reporting my thoughts and feelings on the matter. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. I'm sure you'll tell me in the comment section because that's what it's for. And we can have some discussion there. But I thought this was interesting. I wanted to kind of weigh in and offer my thoughts and I think there are certain problems. I think that, and it's funny because they already made the announcement about incorporating RCS support. And that's kind of my thought process. Like, I don't think you need to have iMessage on Android as a right. But I think that because it's such a level of communication platform now that it is becoming a de facto standard in many ways, that there should be open communication for other people to more freely have a better level of communication with people using iMessage. And they've already said they're going to enable RCS support this year. I think that might have been preemptive. I think they realized, the writing was on the wall when it comes to this whole lawsuit thing. So they got out ahead of it and said, yeah, we'll allow RCS support. RCS is basically like the underlying method used. Well, I don't want to say that because that's probably misleading. But anyway, it's the Google equivalent, so to speak, of what iMessage is, and you can more freely send videos and pictures and have better communication for group chats and stuff like that. So combining those and allowing people to communicate that way is fine. I don't think that somebody on Android should be able to use Apple Pay as part of their RCS text messaging, but I do believe that you should be able to more freely communicate, so that way it makes it better for everybody. We're not talking about giving somebody iMessage. We're talking about opening it up to have better communication. I think if you buy a Google Pixel Watch, you should be able to connect it to your iPhone and at least get like text messages and email notifications and stuff. So there's just certain things that I think could benefit everybody as a whole, so you can more freely move and make decisions on what products you want, knowing that you have choice, not getting overcharged for things, and not having to suffer living under Apple's thumb if you want to use any of those things together. So anyway, that's all I got. I'm going to wrap this one up. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found it helpful. That's just kind of my thoughts on the matter. And we'll see what happens. This is going to take a while. I'm sure we won't get an answer for 2 or 3 years. The court system moves very slow. This is a very big thing. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of money involved. I don't think Apple's going to get broken up. I don't really. They're a little bit different. There was an issue with Microsoft back in like the 90s, and they got broken up, and the government has the power to do that. But I don't think that's the issue here. I think it's more of a free access thing. I think this is more of a novel discussion than where we were at before, where it was just hardware and software. Anyway, so that's all I got. If you have any questions or comments, complaints, hates, go to the comment section. We'll talk about it. If you enjoyed the video, if you found this helpful, if you like my thought process on things, hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you guys next time.